This next award goes. This award goes to the viewers' pick. This is the people that wrote in, filled out ballots they came to the station or whatever. And the other award was the most web hits. And that's recorded dynamically. Is that correct, Mike? So our web page, you know, if somebody goes to a certain item on the web, it counts it. So the winner of the top winner, by the way, we got 3 top winners, but the number 1 top winner of the viewers' pick and the best and the most web hits is the show called the Snow Ghost Community Show. Come on up, Bill Russell. Bruce Russell, the Snow Ghost.
Thank you. Couldn't done without anybody, but none of this means a whole lot of beans without people present and watching my show. And I just want to thank you all. Keep your ears to the grindstone and keep watching for more.
This morning feeling bad, crazy about the girl that I once have had, and I just keep loving her, just keep loving her, just keep loving, I don't know the reason why.
And now, please welcome the award-winning world's loudest talk show host, the Snow Ghost, Bruce Russell!
Thank you. Thank you.
How's it going, Bruce?
Pretty good. How's it going there, Captain Gene?
I'm excited to be on the Snow Ghost Community Show today. You know, this is the 11th show, and I have one question for you.
What's that?
Why don't you just take show number 10 and then make it louder?
Well, you go toward number 11.
I also want to congratulate you on your award.
Oh, thank you. I got 2 awards.
You got 2 awards?
All right.
Well, congratulations
Yeah,
on both of them.
You know what? I never thought one thing. Oh man, I actually get an award for being. I actually got a reward for being an award.
That's the way it works out sometimes.
All right.
I also want to congratulate you on having your great guest on today's show.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I want to thank you for actually tracking them down. They get to be on the show. And my guest here today is all welcome Billy Blue.
Hey guys, it's not so hard to track me down, is it?
No, not really, but so how's it going, Billy?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, thanks for coming down. It's a real honor.
First time here. It's a lot of fun. Checking out all the equipment and.
So I'll bring you to my first question.
Okay.
What was how old were you when you started playing harmonica, and why did you decide to play harmonica, and of all the other instruments you could have played, why was that one thing?
That's a good question. And the answer is, well, first of all, I didn't really start playing till I was fairly old, or I thought was kind of old. I didn't start playing till I was in college. And I guess the reason I started playing harmonica was that I had this idea in my head that I was too old to start playing guitar or something, you know. So, and I only found out later that a lot of great guitar players and musicians not everyone was a child prodigy or playing since they were 6 years old, so.
When you started playing harmonica, it was blues harmonica?
Well, I wasn't really thinking, I was kind of just getting into blues, so I kind of picked up the harmonica, and I just started kind of fooling around with it, and I didn't really think it would go anywhere, you know? It just kind of, and at some point it just had a life of its own, and I got really into blues. I mean, that's kind of what propelled me to play the harmonica. You know, when I first picked it up, I wasn't that serious about it, but I started listening to blues because I knew that's what it was for, essentially. It's kind of, you know, the harmonica is like what the saxophone is in jazz. It's like the voice of, you know, it's the one place where it's the prominent instrument.
It's kind of like guitar, you know, like rock music or something like that too.
Yeah, I mean, guitar is big in blues too, obviously, but
It's big in jazz too.
but harmonica's not big anywhere in.
Except in blues, and in blues
Right.
it's huge.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what he's here for, 'cause that's what I'm trying to say. And so yeah, I got into blues, and then I just kind of took off with it, and I guess I never looked back. I don't know what happened. It just, you know, I think that a harmonica is an instrument that so many people like try it. I've had so many people tell me they've picked up a harmonica and tried to play it and couldn't do anything with it, or a lot of musicians too. They say they play all kinds of instruments, but you know, I try to play harmonica and I don't know what to do. I mean, it's kind of almost like it's better for, I think when musicians try and play it, it doesn't work, you know.
It's better for somebody who's just coming at it from more of a...
Well, if you think about the guys who picked it up originally and just started playing, they weren't musicians, they weren't trained, most of them weren't really even literate in any sense. They just, and the interesting thing about, I don't know, one of the most interesting things to me about blues harmonica, and we don't have to get into this whole technical thing, but blues players actually kind of invented a way of playing the instrument in a way that it wasn't designed for.
The cross harp?
Yes, yes.
And that's why I think a lot of people maybe pick up the harmonica and don't know what to do with it, because people say, oh, here's a song in C, I'll buy a C harmonica and play along, and it just kind of sounds like I'm tinkling along on a toy piano almost. But isn't the technique with the blues harmonica that you pick, where you play like a G harmonica with this song in C, or it's a different, it's like a fifth off or something?
I'll tell you what, I think this is what I'll do. I'll show you, and I think we should build some suspense. So I'll just play the...
Okay.
So, by the way, see this? These are the old, you can't get cases like this anymore. This is vintage. They haven't made these little kind of cardboard cases in like 20 years maybe. Now they're kind of big plastic cases. They're more solid, but these are cooler. I'm glad I hung on to them.
They're much more original too.
Sorry?
I say much more original, just like I am.
Yeah, they're an original like you. The harmonicas haven't changed though, at all.
Mm-hmm. So
But
maybe price-wise, I'm sure, right?
Oh yeah. Well, when I started buying them, I was living in New York City. I used to go to Manny's Music on 48th Street.
Still there.
Yeah, it's still there. I have all these receipts, $5.85, $5.85. That's what they cost when I first started buying them. Now they're like, even online, they're like 18, 20 bucks, whatever. I mean, and they don't last that long either. Here's an interesting piece of trivia for you, Bruce. See that circle? I'm sure you can't see this in the camera, but there's a design on the harmonica with a little circle in the middle.
Yeah.
And you know, Hohner, these are Hohner harmonicas, they're from Germany.
Right.
Before World War II, there was a Jewish star in the middle of there.
Oh, really?
And then after the war, or during the war, they were removed, and they stayed removed.
So the star was moved after that then?
It was taken away for
okay.
reasons which are historical in scope. You know?
Right.
And I'm actually a Jewish, you know, there are a lot of Jews in the blues. In New York, we used to joke because all the harmonica players were either Jewish or Italian, so there's something about that.
Leonard Chess was Jewish, right?
The Chess Brothers, yeah.
Yeah, he was the guy who recorded all the old Muddy Waters, played the bass drum on a lot of the old Muddy Waters songs. So.
That's another interesting story. Obviously we could talk about all kinds of stuff, but let me show you. It's very easy to play a harmonica, just like you say. If this is a A harmonica, if you want to play in the key of A, the harmonica was designed to be very easy to play, basically just blowing and drawing it off. Now, that's not hard to do. Maybe I'm adding a little, I mean, even if you imagine not being able to play at all and just breathing in and out.
Whatever you do sounds okay.
Right.
That's right.
And it's okay in this moment. and
Right.
that's okay. But
That's a Buddhist
I gotta-
thing.
I know,
We'll get
I
to
got that
later.
in. I
I gotta
know.
bring this up.
I shouldn't have thought.
Mike was Captain Gene was talking about the Chess Brothers. I mean, I heard I was at this chess game, and the Chess Brothers are about to beat these people that have been playing chess. I said, "What chess you to do that?"
We should.
Oh,
so-
so you can just continue though.
No, I mean, we should explain who the chess. I mean, that's an important historical thing. We should say who the Chess Brothers are, just to. They were from Poland. They were Jewish immigrants. They were in the furniture business. You know, they had a furniture store, and they got into music as another business enterprise.
And they were in
really,
Chicago, right?
yeah. They had a nightclub, and they got to know some of these guys, and then they started a record label. So the amazing thing about them, and they're similar to like Sam Phillips, you know, just a guy who they just, for whatever reason, they had a great ear for music, you know. I don't know what Sam Phillips's background was, but I don't know if he knew that much about. But when these guys started coming into his studio, he knew what was what and how to make it sound good. And the Chess Brothers were like that. You could hear them on the records saying stuff, you know. Put a little more. I don't know. I don't know if we're supposed to. We're not supposed to use any profane.
Go ahead.
But you know, they were. Some of the funniest stuff is them yelling at the musicians and telling them what to do. You know. So they got into it and they made great records. The Chess records are that's one of them, probably the most famous blues label, and they recorded all the great Chicago blues guys, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Sonny Boy Williamson, Little Walter.
Wasn't the Chess label actually, wasn't that from like Chicago or something?
Yeah, Chess. It was started as Aristocrat, then it became Chess, and it was later sold in the 70s. You know, it's still, all the stuff is out on CD now. I mean, that's the great thing. I mean, you could get like, I'll tell you, when I was starting getting into blues, getting back to that part of the story, you couldn't just go out and buy stuff. You know, you had to look for used records, and if you were lucky, there were used records around. I mean, I was in New York, so there were a lot of record stores. I was able to find stuff, but I basically was taping stuff from friends, people I met, people who were mentoring me in blues. You know, you couldn't just go out and buy stuff. That's the one thing about today, you know. I mean, live blues is kind of hurting, but as far as on record, you could go online and pretty much get every great,
Probably
or
like
any great
auctions
thing.
or something too, right?
Well, you could just buy all the stuff is out on CD now.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I think that's why a lot of people don't go out of their house to go see shows, because they just order the stuff,
It's like
which is
a
kind of weird. I don't know why people don't want to go, you know. When I heard this stuff on record, I was like, and I found out these guys were coming to play, I'd be like, holy cow, you know. I'm going to see
let's
them.
Let's get back to the harmonica.
Okay.
So you have an A harmonica, and when you play in the key of A, whatever you play sounds okay in the key of A. Like you just did, Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Right, now the thing about that is you notice that, okay, what the blues guys did, and again, it's totally their invention. It wasn't designed this way at all. And I don't think they realized what they were doing. They just picked it up and started playing what sounded right, good. So it turns out it's a cross key. If the guitar player is playing in E, you're using the A harp.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fourth up or a fifth, I don't know. I'm not
I think it's off by it. But so that means that everything you play doesn't necessarily sound right, but it means that now you have a lot of things that you can play that sound bluesy.
Well, the thing about that is that they discovered, now you notice with this, now there's no, what you identify as the blues sound is the bent note more than anything.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Now, see, in order to get that chord structure, there are actually some notes that are missing. Like if I do the scale down here, there's notes missing,
Right.
okay? Now, what these guys figured out is that you could bend the note to get the notes that aren't there. Now, there were two notes that I was actually bending. The harmonica wasn't designed. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you bend the, and how do you bend the note?
That I can't tell you.
I think. Well,
No, not because I don't want to, but because it's one of those things you can't really.
Explain.
You sort of.
Exactly. See, Bruce knows about this kind of thing. The stuff that cannot be
Well, let me
put to words.
That's kind of like bending a note on a guitar. It's like, how do you get to the bend? It's just like,
Well, because you do this with your fingers.
But you
so
could
bend
watch
another-
someone do that.
right.
You could see their fingers. You
Right.
can't watch my
But-
you can't watch the inside of my throat and see.
I just want to say for the young kids at home who all watch the Snow Ghost on a Friday
Oh,
night,
okay.
you sort of what you do is you sort of blow or suck too hard, like
You're drawing the
to the point where it's sort of distorting a little bit, right?
yeah the low notes are bent on the draw note, and you're kind if you could imagine that a straight note is bringing the air back this way, and then when you bend the note, somehow you're changing the passage of the air. You're bringing the note down. So now this is a bend note. This is a regular note, then the bend. Okay, now not only that, but on that there's like 3 missing notes on that hole. Well, 2 here. On the third hole. Those last 3 notes are bent. So, but the real blues sound is not the hitting the notes individually, which is a great thing to be able to do, but it's more the slurring, you know. That stuff. That's what the blues guys. I mean, the Hohner guy is probably spinning really fast wherever he's. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's like, what? That's not. You know, it's probably blasphemy to him. You know.
All right.
Just like blues was blasphemy to a lot of people, but they're taking his instrument and totally corrupting it. So.
I'm glad that you talked about this, the bending of the note and the cross harp, because I think that's why people say, "Oh, I picked up the harmonica," and again, some little kid might have a harmonica in A, and their older brother sits down and plays some blues thing on the piano in A, and he plays the harmonica with it, and he says, "This doesn't really."
Right.
Sound
They'd have to
right.
be kind of guided in that direction. But I think it's a fairly common knowledge now that
you
books
just-
teach that, and
Okay.
it's more that, like we're saying, it's a hard thing to teach. You have to have the enthusiasm. You just have to. I think for me, you just have to love the music enough that you want to play it, and that you just keep.
Were you mostly self-taught, or did you have mentors? When you were-
To begin with, I was totally self-taught. I just put on the records and tried to, you figure out what key the song is in, what harp to use. That's the first thing you do, and then you just play along and try.
I mean, a lot of people did that when they first had to learn how to play the guitar.
Any
I mean,
instrument.
I was self-taught myself, so I mean, when I learned how to play guitar, actually, my first instrument was playing bass professionally. I mean, and I didn't start picking up guitar until like '96, but I mean, I still played acoustic then too. So, but I mean, I was totally self-taught myself. So,
I really think it's the best way to, I guess over the years I've had 1 or 2 people ask me how did I get to be able to play, and I've told a lot of people, I just played along with records, and they're like, no, really, I want to know how you got so good. Come on. And I'm like, no, really, they don't. That's not what a lot of people want to hear. It's not, because we have this idea of. I've always thought of. I guess there's 2 ways to learn an instrument. You could sit down. The whole guitar thing. We have this thing about the Eric Clapton thing where he sat in this idea, probably true. That he sat in his room for 12 hours a day. Because the story is because he saw Jimi Hendrix in London and he freaked out because he's like, this guy is so much better than me, I can't. And he locked himself in a room for a year every day, 12 hours. But we have this idea that getting great on an instrument is about, oh, there's a great TV moment. Someone's
trying to get into the studio.
Yeah.
Forget it.
So, what was I saying?
You were saying that Clapton saw Hendrix play, and then he said,
Right.
"Now I'm going to have to sit in my room for 12 hours a day and get as good as this."
Right, and I think there's this mythic idea of how people get good on an instrument is that they lock themselves in a room and they slave over it, and it's not fun and it's hard, and that is one way to get great technically at your instrument. But I'm saying what I tell people is and maybe this is more true with blues and just feeling the music and this is how these guys learned to play, by playing. You know, obviously they were playing in the street or playing in clubs, but so you do it with a record, it's kind of like simulating the idea of just playing the music, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I did, and that's what I tell people. So I guess what I'm saying is that it was fun. You don't have to be a slave. And I think you get a feeling for the music by just playing along with records that way.
Well, let me ask you this question then, since this has sort of become an educational program.
Yeah, well, it always was from the start.
How to learn how to play harmonica. So obviously the best way for anybody in Worcester to learn to be a better harmonica player would be to go see the Billy Blue Blues Band live on stage. But maybe the second best way would be to pick up a CD or two. What would you suggest that people listen to if they're interested to hear the possibilities?
Okay, well...
And obviously the best CD would be Blues in My Room
No.
by Billy Blue. But maybe another CD also.
That was smooth. That was the smoothest plug, too, that I've ever heard.
Yeah, you should get it. I want to get really smooth. Just get some 220 sandpaper.
Well, but seriously, the thing about your question is that I think talk about a kind of, what's the way of turning someone on to some music? You know, I think it's almost like I meet someone or talk to someone who wants to get into blues, and I kind of feel them out, listen to what they're saying, and decide what to give them. The thing is, I remember when I first got into blues, some of the heavy stuff that to me now is really the heaviest stuff, like Little Walter, he's the greatest blues harmonica player ever. You know, I mean, just unfathomable layers of, I'm still listening to the same song 30 years later and figuring new stuff out. So, but the point is that to an ear that hasn't heard any blues, you know, that stuff from the 50s may sound a little too different. You know what I mean? Just a little.
Yeah, I know. The first blues guy I ever listened to was Robert Johnson, and I listened to this Robert Johnson album for like a year when I was in high school, and it was just because it was so weird, and I was trying to figure out like, why would anyone want to listen to this?
Right,
This is
it's not
so weird, and it took me a long time to get into that.
Didn't he sell his soul to the devil too?
He did sell his soul to the devil.
And did you learn that from Ralph Macchio, or
No,
did
I
you
just
see that
read
movie?
Yeah,
Did you see the movie
Crossroads.
Crossroads?
Yeah, yeah.
That was actually fairly faithful
That's
to the story of
That's
Ralph.
why I got the out, because I was in high school. I saw that
seen
Ralph
Oh, really?
Macchio movie, Crossroads.
Yeah, because
Ralph Macchio was your gateway to the blues?
And Steve Vai's in that movie.
Well,
too,
and the
right?
thing is because they showed like
I don't know if that's profound or
I don't.
profane, but
I have no shame to admit that.
I want to bring this part because I heard that part about when they talked about like, and sometimes they showed the things on like in the search of on the Sci-Fi Channel, and they talk about all this sort and things about the devil and how many things like you find the devil brought up in so many music, like sometimes blues, like Robert Johnson who wrote his last song before he took his life into the devil or something like that. And
do you know why they say why? This kind of ties into this what we're talking about with this Clapton thing, and of course Clapton was the one who kind of brought Robert Johnson into the popular
With
consciousness.
His
you know,
cover of Crossroads and stuff.
yeah, not just that, but he talked. You know, he did
Talking.
cover more than one tune, and he kind of, you know, talked him up. And Robert Johnson, you know, that CD. Remember when that Robert Johnson CD came out? That was one of the first blues CDs. You know, came out pretty early on and sold a huge number of CDs, and probably most people bought it and said what you were saying, like, why does anyone like this stuff? But Clapton said, you know, this is the guy, you know.
This is like it. This is the best.
It was right. It's really funny because like a lot of the stuff I used to like pick up. I don't know. I was probably like 10 years old or something like that. It was just, you know, I find some of the weirdest. I found the weirdest stuff. It was like to me. Picking up to finding some of the weirdest stuff and to bring it home. Your parents are like, what are you listening to? Why is it? The weirdest stuff just like seems much more interesting stuff that's really boring.
But it will grow on you, you know, if you give it a chance. You know, if you start with the stuff that stuff is less accessible to someone who's been listening to rock and roll, you know. So I recommend there's a bunch of records that Muddy Waters did with Johnny Winter in the 70s for CBS. It was kind of a big thing, big kind of crossover thing. And then they kind of hard-edged sound, but still great blues, you know. Muddy Waters, Johnny Winter, James Cotton, you know, the band. I mean, you know, so I try and find out what people like and give them something that they may like. Don't give people what you like, because then they'll walk away. Give them what you think they like, and then maybe they'll keep going with it. And it's great when you nail someone, when you hook someone into it. That has happened, not often in my life, but you turn someone onto a blues record,
I mean, it's kind of like
and before you know it, they're hooked. You know?
It's kind of like walking down the street and you got a big tornado. It's like all that wind just kind of like sucks you in. It's like what different things that people like.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
kind of like sucks you in like a wind tunnel or something like
that's
that.
kind of what I was saying. What happened to me with blues? You're right, Bruce. It was like a wind tunnel for me. I was sucked in and I never got out. I'm still trying. Every time I try to get out, they drag me back in.
All right. I mean, sometimes that's good because I mean.
But the thing, what I was saying about why the Robert Johnson story, he was this kid, and this is another classic
Let
story.
me interrupt the story
Thank
for
God for
suspense
the wind.
purposes. How much time do we have left? Well,
1 minute?
We're at 24 minutes, or we're at 29 minutes?
Probably 25.
Okay, well, we're just going to go on, and I'll cut out the most boring 10 minutes, and we'll put the full version online.
I can't believe that we just talked away like so much time.
So why do they say that Robert Johnson sold his soul
Okay,
to the
because
devil?
this is, you know, this was the Charlie Parker story too. If you saw that movie, this is a true. I don't know if it's apocryphal or if it's true. It's probably true that he went to a jam, and he was gonged. You know, they threw the cymbal on the. That's how they. I don't know if that's where the gong came from.
Was that they would throw a symbol on the stage and
Yeah,
say, get out
so
of here.
you're out, you're done. And he disappeared and came back and was Charlie Parker. You know, so you know, and I know that sometimes that early humiliation at a young age that propels you. You know, I'll show them. You know.
You know, we were watching this documentary about Bob Dylan, the Martin Scorsese documentary, Bruce and I, and they talked about that in there, that he was hanging around the University of Minnesota. He went to Greenwich Village for a couple of months and just had this really intense experience of like all kinds of folk music, all kinds of performing, all kinds of studying and listening.
Yeah.
And then they said when he came back, people were saying, he's still like Robert Johnson selling his soul to the devil. Like, Bob Dylan can now do all these amazing things that he couldn't do before.
Right, so that's the thing, what really happened. Now, the same thing happened with Robert Johnson. He was this kid who, he was tagging around like Son House and, who's the other guy? Willie Brown, you know, some of these Delta guys, Charlie Patton, who are already established, you
What
know.
about Little Richard?
Little Richard?
Yeah.
There's a different
I don't think
scene.
Little Richard was hanging around the Delta at that time.
Oh, okay.
But he could have been not too much. He could have been Robert Johnson's age, though. Now that I think about it,
What about Janis Joplin? She probably wasn't her dad.
she probably She wasn't born when.
Oh yeah. This
We're talking like 1930 or something.
Okay, all right.
You know, so he, you know, he would tag around these guys, say, "Oh, let me play," and they let him play, and like, "You suck, get out of here," whatever. He couldn't really play. They weren't impressed by him. He disappeared for a year, and he came back, and he could outplay everybody. So that's how the story was like. This guy must have sold his soul. He came back. He was like, "How could this have happened?" You know. So that's how that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I want to get back to some of the questions I've asked you upstairs.
Yeah, we've kind of been
So,
tangenting.
when did you actually started playing in the Gilrains and? what
Oh,
was
we were
it-
talking about the old Gil Rains
Yeah,
and the
I
new
mean,
Gil
how'd
Rains.
you,
And
how'd you actually started playing there?
well, I moved to Boston in 1986, and there was a great band. One of my favorite singer harmonica players, Sugar Ray Norser. He had a band, Sugar Ray and the Blue Tones, and I saw them in Boston. And one of the guys in the band said, "You really should come see us at Gilrain's." You know, I didn't know what Worcester. You know, never been to Worcester, but he said, "You should come see us at Gilrain's." You know, it's a great club, and you know, it's a good place to see the band. You know, so. I got in a car with I got directions from him, and it's funny thinking of the directions now, but that's another story. But anyway, found my way to we went to Gilrain's basically, and that was my first time there. The place was packed, and it was great. And I just started going back there. They've had a lot of great shows over the years. And then when I had a band, I started playing there. I played there every Thursday for like almost a year in like 1989.
That's what you knew it as the Billy Blues band, or was that?
It was Billy Blue and the Blazers back then.
Okay.
It was a whole different people and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
And then I just kept going back over the years. Then I moved here, and then it closed 6 months after I got here. And then it opened again. It changed owners, stayed open for a while, then closed, and then it was closed until when? Like until
About
April.
a year ago.
Yeah.
And but long story short, I know Bruce Swan asked me what I think of the old Gilrains compared to the new Gilrains, and the new Gilrains is nothing like the old Gilrains. And I'm not just being retro and old school. I'm being totally objective when I say that the old Gilrains. Plus, it was a different time too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Was it a lot bigger then than it was now?
No, it was the same exact place. In fact, the new Gilrains is a little bit bigger because there was a false wall that they knocked out on the. I don't know. You remember those columns that are on?
Yeah.
There was like a hallway behind there. So technically speaking, the new Gilrains is a little bit bigger.
So you actually, when you played, so you played actually when the original Gilrains until now?
Not continuously, but well, it was closed from like 2001 till 2007.
It was open in 2002 because
Okay.
I went there twice before it closed, and
Okay.
just after I moved here is when it
All
closed.
right,
saw-
so 2002.
to 2000, like almost 5
Yeah,
years.
because me and Dave and Claire went to see this guy back in like 1998. He was actually from New York, called Michael Hill and the Blues Mob, and
I've heard of the name, but I don't know personally.
and anyways, what was it like? Would you find playing at the original Gilrains compared to now like a lot different? Or, I mean,
Well, it's like I say, it was a different. It was just a different time. There were more people. There were more people going to the shows. The place was definitely grungier, you know, and the whole kind of revisionist idea is, oh, the new Gilrains, no more piss on the floor and no more leaking ceiling. But you know
No more
what?
vomit
No
on
one
the-
complained about. Some people complained about that back then, but that's.
no more vomit on the floor in the bathrooms either, right?
I don't remember there being
Oh,
any
yeah.
more vomit then than there is
Oh,
now.
it was
You know.
it was a joke actually. So.
But well, that's what people say. They make, you know, they say all these. Oh, there was vomit, there was urine, there was this, there was that. It was just a joint, you know. That's
All right.
all, you know.
Yeah.
But hey, before we stop, I wanted to give you something.
Well, yeah, because I just wanted to say one last thing. I mean, you mentioned about playing in Europe. I mean, what place in Europe was you thinking of playing? I mean, if for somebody who's like from like Worcester playing blues in Europe, I mean, how do you actually go ahead and doing that? I mean, it's obviously a little different. I mean, from playing here and stuff, like booking stuff here. I mean,
Well, you know, like I was saying before, that I think the thing that a lot of people may not realize is that blues is very big, and I mean, I think people in Europe tend to really appreciate more of the old style blues that I play.
right,
You know, this stuff we're talking about, Muddy Waters, Chicago blues, you know.
right,
And it's just kind of getting to the point where there's a lot of bands. There used to not be any indigenous European blues players. All the blues in Europe was people coming over from here. But after all this time, there's a lot of bands there now. It's all like, I just got on MySpace and, you know, a lot of bands sent me comments, you know, great stuff, love to play with you sometime. And that's like the let's do lunch of the music world, you know. But I kind of put some feelers out and took them up on and said, hey, what would you think of me coming out and doing some shows and with you, you know? See what, just me. In other words, they fly the American blues guy over and they back him up. They have the band over there, and this is what a lot of people do.
So you do like your 10 city tour, different band every night.
Yeah,
same
I mean,
harmonica,
well,
same front man.
there's a lot of logistical challenges to setting up these, to trying to coordinate, but I have been in touch with a band, two bands, one in Madrid and one in Barcelona, And this is looking, it's still, I have to say, it's still in negotiation, you know. But it's looking good that I might actually be going to Spain to do a bunch of shows in Madrid and Barcelona.
Cool.
And what I wanted to show Bruce, I'm going to give you this. I made up these, just to have a press photo, but I put
Oh, yeah, sweet.
True Blues from the USA. So that's actually, you know, that's actually a good marketing. You know, they really look at us here as the, you know, this is where the blues came from, you know. So, you know, I'm American. That makes me a true blues man, you know.
Yeah, one last question. I mean, when you played at Gilrains, was there like any like copywriting laws? Because when I went, because the reason I bring that up, because when I went to Brainerd last year to visit Dave, they played a lot of, it was like a lot of like venues, small, I don't know, really, like coffee houses, and they had, the state of Minnesota had this like copyright law that you only could play like original music. Do you ever find any problems with that, with playing at the old Gilrains or till like now?
I think what you're talking about is that's a kind of different thing, what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, technically bars, if they have a jukebox,
Right.
and I don't know how it is with live music, but like if you have a jukebox and you're playing like copyrighted songs, records,
okay.
you're supposed to pay like publishing companies
Oh, okay.
for the rights, you know, and actually some bars have been busted. The guy from the
ASCAP.
yeah, he'll come in, you know,
Oh,
I don't know,
You know, I
they write
used-
them a ticket or something.
I used to help organize a performance series in Philadelphia of freely improvised music, like sort of crazy free jazz kind of stuff. And we totally got a letter from ASCAP.
Oh,
saying,
really?
like,
They came
hey,
after you?
And we wrote them a letter back saying, like, none of the music that people are playing, they have ever even played before. It's all 100% improvised. Like, we're not going to pay you a fee. But it's true. They look after anything
Yeah.
they can get.
And is it a ridiculous amount of money they want?
It was for this, because this was like, we were giving the musicians all the door. You
Yeah.
know, there's not a lot of, you know, you get 10 or 20 people and it was
Would
a
you actually get
successful
your
show.
pictures done?
This one is from JJ's actually. This
Where's
is on
that
the JJ's House of Blues. I don't know if it's still there even on Grafton Street. And this is my friend Keith Forbes. He took the picture. He's been taking a lot of pictures at Gilrains. You've probably seen him there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But this one was from that other place. And
Let me interrupt here, then.
But I didn't know if you actually went into like a
Let me interrupt here.
photocopy.
he's interrupting
Oh,
us.
okay.
Pay
I'm
attention.
interrupting
Oh,
you.
okay. Go ahead there, Captain
Don't you even
G.
know when you're being interrupted?
Well,
I like being interrupted. See,
I like it too.
I'm
don't
interrupting
interrupt me in
now.
my interruption. Well, we're about out of time,
Yeah.
but we wanted to give you a gift from our sponsor, the HBML Junk Shop, who I know are
Awesome.
big fans of yours.
Yes, and I'm a big fan of theirs too.
And actually,
It's an attractive toucan.
That's what I thought it was, and it's like an askew toucan because it's facing. It's kind of this way, but it's.
I don't know, you don't play guitar, but it is
Oh, awesome! Is this a Bruce pick or?
yeah.
Snow Ghost.
It
guitar
is
pick.
Snow Ghost. Oh, awesome! Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Billy
Thank
Blue.
you.
Thanks
I'm
for being
overcome
on the
with.
show.
I'm about to sneeze. I'm so overcome with gratitude.
Yeah, I'm about to sneeze too, but
Maybe it's the
it's like a whole lot
toucan.
of, one thing about the sneeze is it makes it for a whole, makes it for room for a whole lot more, a whole lot of cheese.
Do you have any final statements to the people at home?
There you
Thank
go.
you for everybody watching the show. We're looking forward to doing number 12. And I hope you all like this show. I'm sure you're going to like it. God bless you and we love you. And Gazoon tight.
First, there was a snow ghost on top of a silver mountain. Now that ghost is your community host. A snow ghost wants to get the most out of you. 'Cause a better world begins with you.